Now joining us from Las Vegas, Nevada, Sam Seder at the Netroots Nation Convention. Sam, how much money are you up or down so far?
Jank, let me just ask you this quickly. Dealer is showing a 3. I have got 12. What am I supposed to do here?
Well, that actually is 50-50. You could go either way, but I like to live dangerously, so I hit.
You hit?
Yes.
Well, that must explain why I'm not doing very well. Yeah, no, the gambling is not going great. I don't want to say anything just in case that my wife is listening, but if she is, it's very early in the weekend, and you want to get down early so you have more time to get back up.
Yeah, so you get back up later, of course.
Right.
Your timing is impeccable.
Yeah. No, I'm working on that. But in the meantime, fortunately, there's been a lot of great panels here, a lot of great speakers, and it's only getting better. And as you know, I've been started to interview just some quick interviews of bloggers and writers who are here, just to get a sense of what people are thinking, and it's a great event.
So tell me some of the people you interviewed today, because I know that's all going up on TYT Interviews on YouTube.
Yeah, the ones that have been uploaded so far, Matt Iglesias from the Center for American Progress, he blogs. He's one of, I actually think he's the only specific writer who has a blog on Think Progress. The rest of them are group blogs. And Iglesias used to write for The Atlantic. He's a great writer. And I spoke to Dahlia Lithwick, who I know is one of your favorites. She was on a panel today ostensibly on Elena Kagan, and it was a great panel. Senator Ben Cardin was on the panel. Mm-hmm. Nan Iran, Dahlia Lithwick, like I said, Keith Komasagi from the Equal Justice Society, and Professor Pam Carlin. And it was a really great conversation that was ostensibly about Elena Kagan, but became about both the Supreme Court and the judiciary as a whole. And it was a really fascinating conversation.
So Sam, let me ask you about that real quick. So what's their take on Kagan? Is she actually progressive, or are we getting hoodwinked?
Well, I mean, there's progressive, and then there's progressive. Professor Pam Carlin, she made the most explicit and strongest case, and she basically said, since the 1950s, every justice that has been replaced by a justice who is to the right of the justice they're replacing. She said the only exception to that would be Justice Greenberg, who replaced Justice White, and on some areas is a little bit more to the left. But she said in every instance, every judge that has been replaced by someone who is to the right of them. And in some instances, if you have a right-winger and you go to the right, then you get someone like, Alito. If you get someone like Justice Stevens replaced by Kagan, it's a little bit more to the, I guess, presumably to the center. But, their argument is just about everybody who's considered liberal on there is really more of a centrist. And, I can't remember which panelist made this point, but they said, listen to what Elena Kagan herself said. She said she'll be no justice. You're not getting Thurgood Marshall. And, so she's laid it out right there. We also know, I mean, if you listen to the hearings, and Lindsey Graham cited this as one of the reasons why he voted for her, when it comes to things like the war on terrorism, she is at least espousing extremely conservative views as far as I'm concerned. But in general, across the board, I think she's a moderate at the very best. She's not really moving the court in any direction. So people felt that Obama was being very overly cautious, didn't want to fight this battle, or, depending on who you talk to, that's an expression of who he is. And so, But, so it depends on what you mean by progressive. This court, the Supreme Court, has really, really shut down access in many ways, in terms of impacting how who has standing to bring cases and impacting the terms and conditions on which people can have standing to bring cases. And frankly, they made a very good argument that you have a lot more activity going on in the district court levels that is also very detrimental to liberals. Right now, there are over 100 vacancies, something like over 10% of the circuit court, the circuit courts are vacant, which is twice the amount that was vacant at this time for Bush. So the Republicans have also been very, very good at obstructing this. And the big message that came out is that liberals really have to start paying attention more to the court, because no matter what issue it is that is your pet issue, if the courts aren't receptive, you're in trouble.
So, by the way, just a couple of things here on this note. It was Ruth Bader Ginsburg who replaced Byron White, and
right.
And John Paul Stevens is the perfect example. He's stepping down now, and as he was stepping down, he said, "Look, I was a right-winger when I came on the court. I didn't change at all, and now I'm leaving as the most left-wing justice."
Right.
So I mean, that goes
Right.
exactly to the point of they've been slowly moving to the right, moving to the right, moving to the right, so that the right end of the spectrum became the left end of the spectrum, and and the left end of the spectrum dropped off the face of the earth. And
Correct.
As we all see this, and as Justice John Paul Stevens sees this, of course we go, unfortunately, to the same old question, which is, does Obama not see this? Does he not care? Is he complicit? Or does he think, or is he scared? And, oh, well, conservatives will yell at me, so I'll nominate someone who's, kind of progressive, good enough, because I'm kind of progressive, and not really.
Cenk, I've had that conversation with about 20 different people today about the Supreme Court, about just about everything else.
And what are they saying, Sam? What's this again?
Well,
because you're talking to the guys who are part of the progressive community here. Some leaders, some
right.
non-leaders, etc. What's the mood on Lib Street?
Well, I think to a large extent, the general sense is that this is who he is. So it's not necessarily, or I think the general sense is this is who he is. And, then there's different variants on that may have to do with he doesn't really necessarily have a fully strong, developed sense of, who he is. And so it's much more easy for him to be influenced by people like Rahm and Jim Messina. He comes into the presidency, and they basically say, here's the game plan. This is what you got to follow. And he was more receptive to that message than he should have been. And then there's some people who make the argument, I have to say, that, he, specifically in terms of Kagan, it was just like this was not a fight that he wanted to have, and he wanted to put a placeholder that wouldn't move the court too far, away from the same court with Stevens, but wanted something that was going to be a fairly uncontroversial pick.
Yeah, but Sam, look, yeah, of course it's a fight he didn't want to have. He never wants to have a fight on anything. So
well, right.
So that goes to the question of, you said, a lot of people are saying this is who he is. But what does that mean? Does that mean he's cautious, he's a politician, he's weak, he's center-right? What do they mean this is who he is?
Ideologically speaking. I think their sense is when they say this is who he is, they're saying, ideologically speaking, he's not a flaming liberal who is afraid to show his stripes. That he's showing his stripes or his spots or whatever the metaphor is. That this is basically who he is, and and frankly, I'll tell you, I don't know that, for a guy like Obama, that conflict aversion is really terribly different than his ideology. One of the things that I've been talking about for a while, and I've had this again, this is topic number one with everybody here, of course, is just sort of like, how do you explain this? And more importantly, which, it's nice to hear, is that, people will do a little bit of analysis, but then they'll say, that analysis is only relevant to the extent that we figure out what we can do to influence him or to influence the process. And, people are still asking that question. And, people are still sort of, I think, absorbing the fact that we don't have an answer for that question yet.
Well, okay, so let me end on that note then, because I want to get a sense of how much hope there's still for him, how much frustration there is, and because if the spectrum is leaning towards frustration, are people leaning towards, hey, but we need to Malcolm X him, and we need to have somebody who's not afraid, or the whole movement not afraid to torch him? Or are they still like, well, if we have his back and we're nice to him, maybe that'll give him enough support and courage that he'll do the right thing?
Well, it's not the latter, I can tell you that. I think, I mean, it's been interesting because one of the things I'm asking everybody I talk to is, what's the biggest challenge progressives face this year? And only one, maybe two people out of 7, 8, 10 now that I've talked to even mentioned the midterms. People are more focused on how can we get what's left of any majority we have to be more responsive to progressives. And I think everybody realizes this is the one thing that the Netroots, I think, really understands that they're not given credit for is they understand this is the long play. I don't think there was anybody here that was under the illusion that everything was going to get better, very quickly. I think people were hoping for, a little bit more responsiveness. But, people are saying things like, there may be some value in losing these blue dog seats.
No, but Sam, here's the thing. I hear you on that. I think another aspect of it is that we gave them overwhelming majorities in the House. We gave them the White House. We gave them, in the beginning, 60 senators, right? We gave them everything, and they still didn't deliver. And I think that really lifted the veil for a lot of progressives. There were no more excuses left. And they still didn't do what they promised they were going to do. They still weren't progressives. I think that caused a lot of people to say, oh, I get it. They're never going to do it, right? So we have to fight a long-term fight to get them to be actual progressives because the elections don't really matter. It doesn't matter if they have 51 senators or 61 senators. They're still going to do the same thing. Right.
I mean, I think it's, part of it is also, I think, the more... one of the conversations I was having today with Digby was that Digby is a blogger at hullabaloo.blogspot.com, I guess it is, or Digby's blog at blogspot.com, and she was talking about that. There's also sort of we need to really begin to convince some of the liberal establishment that that this is a very polarized time, and you can't play to the middle. It doesn't work politically. That to me is and we talked about this yesterday, and people are really starting to talk about this here. That's one of the strongest arguments that people have, because the poo-pooing that people like Rahm and the establishment, when they come to poo-poo the left for being too naive or not understanding how difficult things are, or that's all well and good when you're politically up, but when you're failing politically, never mind some type of so-called purity test from the left. But when you're failing politically, your excuse for why you're not delivering what the left wants, then you're vulnerable. You're vulnerable both, from a you're vulnerable to criticism, and you're vulnerable to losing the support of some of the infrastructure because, you're no longer the meal ticket.
Yeah, and let me just combine two things there, Sam, because it's when you say run to the left now, as we explained in the earlier part of the conversation, you're actually running towards what used to be the center, right? It's not like you're going way left. We're so far right, you could run for miles to the left and still not hit the center. So,
right.
And that's why when it comes to election time, if you noticed, Obama's a lot more progressive now. When it comes to election time, they know the way to get votes is by running to the real center, which to this day is in Washington is described as the hard left. But as soon as they win, okay, of course they think, well, now I got to get the money, and the money is not in the left; it's in the way right. So,
well, one thing people have made a point of today is in conversations is get ready for Obama to move to the right after the elections.
Of course, as always.
Right. Unless, the only question at that point is, what happens if they lose the House, or particularly the House?
Yes.
Because then you're going to start to see all sorts of. I'm pretty convinced that the Republicans take control of the House, you're going to start to see hearings.
Of course, they're not going to hesitate for a second.
Right, you're not going to hear a lot of. Yeah, let's just keep looking forward. Let's not turn the page. There's going to be 6 months of hearings on, that one Black Panther wearing a beret and carrying a nightstick on a street corner in Philadelphia, who was actually electioning for Hillary Clinton. That's going to end up being the lead story. You can imagine the graphics on ABC right now, right?
Yeah.
Day 75.
I know. All right, Sam, we're way over time, so we got to go.
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. But everybody check out Sam's interviews on youtube.com/TYT interviews, talking with the leading progressives in the country. Sam, thanks so much for covering it for us. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Cenk. You're missed here.
All right. Thank you, man. Thank you.